evening, ladies and gentlemen. This is Commissar here at my new channel, KommiGaming, and today for you I have a 1v1 StarCraft 2 commentary. It is a TvT, and it will be several matches, and those matches are going to be between none other than Mouse ThorZain and a player who is listed as Slayer's Cellar, but who is actually Team Complexity's GanZi. Okay, so GanZi here on the right hand side is our red turn player, spawning on the right hand side of today's map. And looking at his recent stats, you will notice that he is currently he had no recent lead. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, this is Commissar here, and today I have another 1v1 StarCraft 2 commentary for you, and today's game, or today's best of 3 series, will be between Mouse ThorZain, our blue Terran player spawning on the left hand side of the map, and his opponent is none other than Complexity's GanZi, listed today as being Slayer's Cellar. Okay, so we do see GLHFs and GGs going on between the two players, and looking at these two players' stats recently, you will notice that Team Complexity's GanZi, our red Terran player, the South Korean for Complexity that is, he has not had any recent tournament results that have been particularly notable, like in the very recent past, unlike ThorZain. But on the ladder in America, he has a 72% win rate and is ranked number 22 on the ladder right now. His opponent, however, ThorZain, he does have laddering accounts on both America and Europe. On Europe, you'll see him sitting at around about 72% wins, slightly, actually a tiny bit more than GanZi in terms of the the decimals, like 72.1 versus 72.5, that sort of thing. And he is also on America at 65% wins, giving him a slightly lower percentage on the American server than GanZi, but importantly, he will have latency issues across servers. Okay, so the key thing to note in this game is that GanZi is going for some sort of proxy barracks rush. I'll have to wait and see what he does do with this. At the moment, you'd have to assume it won't just be Marines from one barracks. Maybe it's going to be attempt at bunkering, but it's going to be hard to know, because really you'd think that whatever he could do, ThorZain could just imitate it and crush it from the high ground from his own base, with basically the same amount of resources. So unless there was a command center first build, you'd assume that it would be fairly easy to repel, unless, say, some sort of early Reapers or some sort of early Marauders happen to take ThorZain off guard. So I'll have to wait and see and watch that closely. And noting that he is indeed already mining a lot of gas, unlike ThorZain, it'll be important to note that, yeah, there will be a tech lab going down, which is going down right now, and we'll have to wait and see what does come out of there. I guess we'll have to be Marauders at this stage. We'll have to wait and see though. Okay, so ThorZain we do see at the front with the Marine, not able to deny the scouting SCV. Probably could have microed it a tiny bit better in order to get that kill, but so what? Doesn't really matter very much. Okay, so we do now see, yes, both concussive shells and early Marauders being pumped out by GanZi here. So I'll have to wait and see what he does do with those, and he may be able to deny this natural expansion, this fast expand by ThorZain, as there will only be a few Marines to defend it, and a few Marauders should beat a few Marines. Build time's not being very different. Okay, so we do see it looks like one SCV is going to go down here of ThorZain. He's going to lose a second SCV as well, but I doubt he'll lose much more than that, as with the SCVs being pulled off the line, this barracks, even this tech lab should be shut down. You'd assume that GanZi is probably going to try and delay until Concussive Shells finishes, and then just get the hell out of there. Really, he can't do anything else at this stage, I'd say. Concussive Shells is now done, so he will go in for a little bit more damage here, and he will try and harass those SCVs, knowing that they are going to be pretty weak against the kiting of the Marauders with their concussive shells, and I'll have to wait and see how this goes. But repair being used by ThorZain, that's going to be pretty crucial for him. Meanwhile, we do see GanZi with the third Marauder. The third Marauder is probably going to just get trapped out here. You can see the SCV is just tanking at this stage with their repair. One Marine did go down, but a Marine from Marauder is going to favor ThorZain, although he is losing quite a few SCVs here. Important to note is that the expansion of GanZi has not even started yet, so that's going to be really, really hurting him, really, if he doesn't do a ton of damage with this. And to be honest, he's only killed, what, 4 workers? He's lost quite a bit himself. Unisource tab shows, you know, it's favoring GanZi, sure, but the numbers themselves, 125 is the difference in resources lost. It's not very significant, it's not huge. So as a result, you'd have to say ThorZain is a mile ahead at this stage, having held, and this continued production by GanZi might not help him out too much. you will see a scout coming in of ThorZain, gonna see everything, and this is going to suck so much for GanZi, as he has a starport on the way, no expand. Well, now there's the expansion actually, as I said that. And what's important to note is he could be going for Banshees here, and yeah, he is. And the tech club's been seen, the starport's been seen, so surely ThorZain is going to prepare for Banshees. You'd have to assume that, after his early attack has failed so heavily. You can see the Marauders have just been cleaned out here. The Reaper is getting away, but at what cost? I mean, the unit sus tab suddenly favors ThorZain outright. So unit sus favors ThorZain, the expansion timing favors ThorZain, the worker counts favor ThorZain, the scouting favors ThorZain. And even though there's a Banshee on the way, there is an engineering bay on the way for ThorZain, and he'll probably get turrets out after getting that. Probably gonna have maybe a bit of scan. He has enough Marines to kill a Banshee anyway. Without Cloak, it'll be useless. With Cloak, it'll probably also be useless. So the reality on the situation is that the only advantage that GanZi has is a faster factory tech, and that is that's the factory for ThorZain coming up now. So the advantage for GanZi is possibly going to be a timing attack off 2 bases. Other than that, ThorZain is having a really good start to this game, and I'm impressed by him so far. Okay, so we are going to see GanZi now going to take that starport off of that tech lab, probably going to leave it for a factory to take over, and yes, a second factory is indeed on the way. We do indeed see a barracks about to be landed as soon as it flies across the map in the main base of GanZi, which is going to leave him with a total of what? It's going to leave him with 2 factories, a barracks, and a starport, pumping medevacs. So it's probably going to be some marine tank medevac play, as is most typical of TvT, coming out of GanZi. Meanwhile, we will see ThorZain is going for a reactor, going for a very heavy marine focus, and again also adding on the tanks, and the starport probably going to be, oh, maybe not tanks, getting a reactor first, so perhaps going for a lot of marine medevac play, transitioning into tanks in the later game. Okay, so it's going to be pretty much your typical TvT balance. It's going to be a question of whether ThorZain can maintain his advantage, which hasn't been maintained actually. Already Harvest is now favoring GanZi. They may have been favoring him earlier, I'm not actually quite sure about that. But yeah, Harvest is actually favoring GanZi now, and the Banshee is coming in here. That is crucial for GanZi and cannot do much damage. 3 workers have been killed so far by that Banshee. A turret is up in the main, like I said, 2 turrets actually, but not covering the refinery. The Marines now cover it though, so you'd have to assume not too much damage will be dealt, unless by these Hellions perhaps. Hellions versus Marines is an interesting trade. We'll have to wait and see how it goes. I don't think there are enough Hellions, but with Blue Flame, oh, Blue Flame done is going to make this so different. It's all going to come down to the angles, to the micro, and with Banshee support, these Hellions are going to do a lot of damage, it looks like. I mean, Marines could, SCVs could potentially attack them and kill them that way, which you can see ThorZain tried to do there, but on such low health now they are going to be cleaned up. But there is a lot of damage being dealt here by GanZi, who's taken an enormous supply lead. This is why the Marine play is very volatile in the TvT matchup, and why most players prefer the factory players, because really, your Marines can be killed very quickly, and if you lose a lot of Marines, you're in a lot of trouble. And these Hellions, they're dirt cheap, just like the Marines, only they don't matter in big battles. So really, having lost those units and still being so far ahead in supply, although that is Hellions, which isn't the best use of supply, but even so, GanZi is suddenly in a really good position after a pretty easy early hold from ThorZain's perspective. Okay, so we do see another Hellion drop going to be coming down towards ThorZain's base in no time, and it looks like having lost all those Marines, ThorZain's plans of perhaps some early Marine drops are probably not going to come to fruition. He's moving out now, which is probably going to be some sort of drop, but it's going to leave his main pretty weak. He doesn't have much to defend against this second wave of Hellions now. He does not see it with this medevac here, so he does not know about this. He does have, what, 2 Marines in his base? That's not enough for 3 Hellions. And, you know, SCVs, the Marauder's going to be crucial, but SCVs and Marines, are so useless against these Hellions. You can see a couple of workers were killed there, generally shut down quite well with the positioning of the SCVs and of the Marines, and that Marauder, that stim was very effective. But still, a few more workers were killed. Economy now shows 5 workers ahead for GanZi, and he's been ahead for quite some time now, mining quite a lot more than his opponent. His third base timing is a little bit better than ThorZain's, and his food count, his supply count, is still a long way ahead. So we see Ganzi going for this heavy mech play, the Vikings already coming out in force, the tanks already out, the Hellions already out in force. Meanwhile, ThorZain, he only has Marines and a couple of Marauders. So he is going bio, it appears. The factory is now starting the tanks, so he'll be so far behind in mech for this entire game. It's going to come down to bio. And ThorZain, he cannot engage a superior mech army directly. So he's going to have to rely on counterattacks, on counter pressures, on maybe trying to split up his army a bit, try to catch bits of Ganzi's army out of position, kill reinforcements. He's going to rely all very heavily on mobility. Whereas meanwhile you're going to see Ganzi with a very immobile army, except for the Hellions, but alone Hellions are pretty useless against Marauders especially, and tanks. So it's going to be mobility against immobility, with the immobile force being far superior in raw strength. So we can see both players saturating their thirds at about the same time in the end, as Ganzi did have to fly over to his natural third base, that is. And ThorZain is now moving out with a bunch of Marines and Marauders, but look at the size of the army. It's pretty small compared to these opponents, and he does have center map control, which is always nice. A drop being shut down by a turret over here, it appears. Although I don't know if it actually ended up dropping or not. It looks like it may have killed about one worker, but yeah, nothing too significant happening over there. A drop is going to be attempted here by ThorZain, but a sensor tower is going to shut that down. Sensor towers are so useful. They just allow for so many things to be easily shut down. And these Vikings are going to come over here, probably going to kill the medevac. And yeah, they're probably not going to lose a single Viking, although one does go down. Nice micro there. Nice stutter step by Ganzi. And if he got that second one, that would have been very much worthwhile. A medevac for a Viking, I believe, slightly favors the player who is losing the Viking. I think, although the repair costs are going to even it out quite a bit. So yeah, it does. Oh, the gas favors the medevac. The minerals, favors the. The medevacs cost more gas. The Vikings cost more minerals, is what I'm trying to say. Okay, so we are seeing a big push out here by Ganzi, and it does get seen by this force of ThorZain, but that force does get taken out, and now it's up to ThorZain to make a move, and he is going for the counter. Like I said, relying on counters, not going to engage directly. He's not going to engage a siege line of his opponent, and he is going to just drop the main base as heavily as he can into a missile turret, though. May lose a medevac before it unloads its cargo, and yes, he does. It was just about finished unloading, though, not the biggest deal. What is a big deal is this line of Hellions coming into the main base to defend these siege tanks, and how much damage can be dealt is the big question. One tank going down, but in general the army of ThorZain is going to melt. These two tanks are so vital, but two tanks alone can't do that much. 5 kills between them now, 6 or so. That's not going to be enough. The damage dealt there was insufficient, I believe, by ThorZain, although supplies have evened out quite a bit too. So units last tab is remarkably even. I suppose a bunch more SCVs were killed off than I thought. As you can see, workers killed not too many by ThorZain, 6 total, so I killed about 5 then, I believe. I guess he didn't lose too much of a force, but really all he killed was Hellions and 1 tank. And Hellions, like I said, they're not the most valuable units. Losing them is okay from the perspective of Ganzi, and ThorZain is still behind in food, in supply that is. The Hellions melt into these tanks, but only 2 of the tanks are there, and now suddenly only a couple of tanks remain, and ThorZain is going to be squashed in the middle of the map, and you'd have to assume he's going to struggle here, but oh my god, catching the tanks while they're sieging, perfect timing for ThorZain on those reinforcements. And we can see him hanging on to that center back control by a thread, losing his last Viking it appears, and oh, ThorZain is in so much trouble, going to have to even defend this medevac from that Viking. And oh, the tank count of Ganzi is so huge, he may just push down the middle, but no, he's going to go round the army of ThorZain. He does see this though, and is going to reposition accordingly, reinforcing continually. 4 tanks now is going to be a lot better for ThorZain than it was previously, and he's moving in here with his Marauders, but there are no siege up tanks for either player, and this looks like it's going to favor Ganzi so heavily. The tanks of ThorZain do not stand a chance as they are all melting away, and now we're left with ThorZain having almost nothing left in his army. Ganzi's army, it's vulnerable to, say, a ton of Marauders, yeah, because there's not much other than tanks, but there's not much period for Ganzi. Units tab now, period for ThorZain that is. So looking at the army tab, the units tab, we do see, yeah, a small bio ball for ThorZain, not much at all, versus 13 tanks, now 12 Hellions. It's going to be tough for ThorZain going on from here. The supply counts are surprisingly close, but just think about it. 80 to 63 harvesters means that the army itself is so much bigger for Ganzi. Ganzi at about almost exactly twice the army size of ThorZain in terms of supply, and that is going to just show and show and show as this game does go on. Upgrades wise, you do see 2 attack upgrades for Ganzi, making his tanks that more devastating. And sure, 1 attack upgrade on those tanks of ThorZain, 2-2 on the bio. General attack is all that matters for tanks, and the attack upgrades are there for Ganzi, so he is not behind in that regard. So really, ThorZain doesn't really have much of an edge anymore, other than bio, and having a slight bio edge when you're against this many tanks doesn't really matter. The only thing that's helpful for him is that his opponent can't actually drop the main, as he does have no medevacs, so he can't do an elevator play to kill off ThorZain completely quite yet. But it looks like we are going to see ThorZain moving out here, but it does get seen by a scan. Going to siege up here, and it looks like ThorZain will be okay for the time being. He has not yet lost his tank line, and they're going to be able to continue to move out across the map. But so few tanks are here, only 5 of them, and look at that army of tanks streaming forth for Ganzi. That is going to be so devastating, and he's even going in for the flank with these Hellions, going to hit from all sides potentially. But no, ThorZain is not going to go into that trap. He is going to go for these rocks, but what is that going to achieve? I don't know. Hellions picking up a few units, and oh, ThorZain is just retreating into a corner, losing tanks to Hellions of all things, losing so many tanks, losing so much of everything, and ThorZain is just going to melt away to Ganzi, who's just played a lot better in general this game, and surely that should be GG. Yeah, I'm assuming it is. I mean, looking at what ThorZain has left, he's going to get a few tanks. Nice pick up there. Even so, Unix Lastab still favors Ganzi by a mile. Upgrades, army, all favoring Ganzi at 3 attack upgrades on those tanks. And there is the GG finally called by ThorZain. So it's a good game, kind of. I say good. Well, the opening was interesting, and what's most interesting is how Ganzi was able to say, okay, my attack at the start sort of failed, did a bit of damage, I'm not too far behind, and then he just played out, and he just played it out the way he normally would. It feels kind of like a build order win for Ganzi, but really the crucial thing I think is just the Hellion drop over here early on in the game kills so many Marines. The ThorZain strategy, which relied on early medevacs, early Marines, that means drops. If you can't even do the drops because your Marine count isn't there, it's not going to be pretty. So it was very well done by Ganzi. A very fragile build by ThorZain, just being completely demolished by the clever drop timing of Ganzi. And a well-deserved victory, as I'll go into the second game between these two players in this best of 3 series.